Hello and welcome back to our audit kickoff streams. My name is Jess and today we have another exciting project for you to dive into. Yesterday we saw the Alchemix contest going live, and in this stream we're going to sit down with the developers and get guided through that code base. As always, if you have any questions throughout this stream, head over to the live chat and pop them in there. We will try and answer those at the end, and if you have any questions later on, feel free to head over to our Discord, which is linked in today's description, and you can ask any questions to our team and to the sponsor in there as well. Now, before we get started, I would like to highlight some things about this contest. So we are looking at a contest with a prize pool of 16,653 OP to be exact, and we have an end slot of 253, meaning that at today's price, we are looking at over $160 per line of code. So this is not a contest to be missed. I expect that to be one of the highest in the market at the moment. So make sure to pay close attention to this code base and see what you can find. Now, let's get started. In this stream, we will walk through what the protocol is, how to set it up, and its intended functionality. Let's start by running through the contest details. So let's just pull up CodeHawks very quickly. And let's run through what it's all about. So the strategy utilizes Yearn V3 strategy template and builds on top of Alchemix, providing an automated strategy which allows users to earn yield on Alchemix tokens, primarily alETH, by taking advantage of potential depegs. The strategy deposits to Alchemix's Transmuter contract. An external keeper can claim all alETH for WETH and execute alETH for WETH and execute a swap back to alETH at a premium to take advantage of any depeg of alETH versus WETH. So that's a quick introduction to the code base, but we do have the developers here ready to talk us through this code base on a more technical level, look at the intended functionality, and prepare us to really dig deep in this audit. So let's welcome to the stage Scoopy, and we also have SafetyBot here as well. So thank you both very much for joining us for today's stream. I will be passing over to you in just a second. If you could tell us a little bit more about the code base, how it's come about, and what we can look for in this audit contest.
Hi, so I'm Scooby Trooples, and one of the kind of motivations we had for building this vault was last summer, Alchemix was a victim of the curve reentrancy bug, which saw people able to drain curve pools of their ether. This happened to us. And while we were able to get a lot of the funds back from the hacker, they left the curve pool with like 4,000 alETH in it and just like less than 1 ETH in it. And so when you have a pool that unbalanced, it allows people to buy a ton of alETH for just a tiny bit of ETH. So that MEV, the MEV in that block was insane. And all that alETH that was in that pool just kind of got lost to the wind. And as a result, over the past year and a half, we've been really trying hard to fix the peg for alETH because it was impacted so negatively by this event. Now it's finally getting good, and it's I think about 0.98 ETH per alETH. But one of the thinkings we had was using our redemption module and having an automated automated redemptions and compounding them into each other. So if I can share my screen, I'll just show you the app, and I'll explain how this kind of works. So here is our vault deposits on mainnet here. So we have different menus or like options for people to stake or as deposit for their CDPs in Alchemix. So that's Yearn, stETH, RocketETH, AaveETH, VesperETH, FraxETH, and Dinero APXETH are all products we have right now. So all of the yields that these are earning, when the system detects a large enough harvest, it will take the yields that these tokens are earning and use that to repay users' debt. And then the flow of funds goes from the vaults to the transmuters. And so all the flow of funds is going into this transmuter here, which we just named Van Helmont after a famous alchemist. And so basically what happens is somebody can deposit their alETH into the transmuter, and then over time, the flow of funds from the yields in the vaults will then be distributed to the people who have deposited their alETH into this redemption module. So it takes a little bit of time. Right now, it's estimating that it would take 138 days to transmute the alETH that is deposited in the contract. As you can see, I have a position in here. I deposited 1.68 alETH. It was actually a bit more. Actually, that's how much I did deposit. And so far, 0.22 has been converted to WETH. And this is a one-to-one conversion. So if I put in 100 alETH in here, I should expect eventually 100 WETH on the other side. But you can claim this WETH at any time. And so that's what we would be doing with this vault. We would be claiming the claimable WETH and then using that WETH to buy more alETH and putting it in here. And the thinking is that this 0.22 alETH or WETH might be able to buy 0.24 or 0.25 alETH. And in that way, it can auto compound and earn yield. And you can increase the amount of alETH that you have underlying in your deposit.
Brilliant. That was a perfect explanation. Thank you very much. Bringing in SafetyBot now, who will be coming in to talk about the code base in a little bit more as a little bit more technical way. So we're going to run through the contracts. We're going to look at the individual functions, look at the intended functionality, and see where we should be focusing during this contest.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah, so just looking at my screen, so I've got basically the strategy mainnet open. So you'll see there's 3 different iterations of the strategy, one for ETH mainnet, one for Arbitrum, one for Optimism. Basically, the difference there is the dependency on the DEX that we swap through. So, for example, on mainnet, we swap through Curve, going through that claim and swap function that Scoopy mentioned. So I guess in terms of like interfaces, so at a high level, this is built on top of Yearn's V3 tokenized strategy. So there's like links to documentation in the README that you guys can find on exactly how that works. But essentially at a high level, users deposit, they receive an ERC20, and there's built-in accounting logic that tracks basically their position over time. Then the transmuter, so we have an interface into Alchemix's transmuter, which is where we're actually the vault is depositing assets and does like the claiming and swapping to earn that yield, and yeah, then the curve router. So yeah, and then basically like a few things that we do, like we store the swap route. So
sorry, can I just quickly jump in? Would you be able to zoom in a little bit so we can see the screen a little bit better?
Yeah, no worries.
Control plus.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Nice. Good. Too big of a screen. So yeah, we interface with the transmuter. The underlying asset here is basically WETH. So when the kind of contract gets deployed, we actually just call that address directly from the transmuter. You can see that there. We set the transmuter address. We actually just do a check as well that the asset that the strategy is doing is correct. We do some approvals to that, and then we initialize some addresses, which is essentially initializing the router address. There is like a function on to like add routes as well, which is like a permission and function that only management can do. So potentially like on Curve, there's a few different ways that we could potentially swap our ETH back to wrapped ETH and deposit. So that function's permission function. So basically, like, when a user deposits, what happens is funds just get deployed and deposit directly to the transmuter. And then, as Kivu was saying, we wait for them to be claimed and then potentially swap at a premium. And how that function is done, it's done by like permission, so only keepers can call that. So basically we claim from the transmuter, we check the balance of alETH before. We basically require, when this function gets called, we say how much alETH how much ETH, wrapped ETH are we claiming, and what's the minimum we're willing to swap for. So first of all, we make sure that we're always swapping at a premium, because we don't want the keeper to be able to essentially like swap and get worse, because then the yield's going to be negative. And then we do the swap through curve, etc. We do some like final balance checks, and then for that wrapped ETH that got swapped back to alETH, we deposit back to the transmuter all in one function. And then there's like some functions for like freeing funds. So when a user withdraws, how do we handle that? Balance deployed is essentially just an accounting function, which is used by the vault to like track how much assets are deployed. Another like core function is harvest and report. So to basically, like, as earn gets yield through this vault, for those not familiar with how vaults work, they track like a share price. And basically we need to like make sure we're not overestimating assets. So a typical like attack vector on vaults that like happens is you might be able to say, make it look like there's less assets than there actually is, deposit at a lower price, and then withdraw more, etc. So this is like probably like super core that we're actually always accurately accounting for the assets in there. Yeah, and the rest of it, I guess, is like all pretty much just like balance stuff. Nothing like really core there. Probably like some other stuff to understand. So for strategy, ARB and OP, they're essentially like the exact same logic. Really, the only difference is what router we use. So, for example, on Arbitrum, we swap by Ramsey, which has a slightly different interface to Curve for doing those swaps. So that logic needs to be different. And then same on Optimism, we swap with a slightly different router. But yeah, the high-level logic's the same. Then the next thing, so there's like a test suite already there which shows the high-level flow of, I guess, how the strategy gets set up. So you can basically see, okay, when we set up the strategy, we like do a bunch of stuff, set all the addresses, track this, add the curve route for curve if it's mainnet. You can see here in this function, set up strategy, what we actually do. So we basically deploy a new strategy, and then we initialize. So there's basically all these different permission address. So we need to actually set what address is the keeper. So that's the person that can perform the claim and swap, set some other things like management, etc., which is just like standard practice. We do some stuff like mimicking, depositing into strategy. There is also some, you'll notice that to basically, because we're running these tests on a fork of like the chain, can't run them live, and because of the way, as Skippy was saying, when you deposit alETH into the transmuter, over time, you can kind of claim back to WETH. So we need to simulate that in some way. So we basically just deploy a mock yield token and simulate the fact that more of the underlying asset is becoming claimable through the transmuter. So that's kind of what happens there. Yeah, and we basically simulate as if like this mock yield token was added to the transmuter, but that's like obviously out of scope, the transmuter, but just to explain what's going on there. Yeah, and then the operation test has basically like a bunch of the core logic. So we test like, okay, have we set up the strategy okay? We test, can we claim and swap? And yeah, doing this like simulation on a fork, etc. We do like slightly different things on different chains, just because the way we swap is different. Yeah, some other things we just test operation. Basically, it just does some testing of the accounting of the vault, which is just like core tests to make sure it's doing, test profitable report. So we just test the accounting logic is working as well. So we mimic some yield being earned as well there. Yeah, I think that's like very high level. Other stuff to look at, I guess, would be the interfaces. So we've got to look at all the interfaces that we actually use. So the core ones being the interface with Alchemix, the different dexes, interface with the transmuter, etc. And again, like different dexes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That was very, very helpful. Thank you very much for that deep dive into the code base. So just to make everybody aware that is watching, this contest is live until next Monday. So you now have a week to dive into this and run through those contracts in a little bit more detail. But hopefully that explanation has given you a little bit of a head start, given you a little bit of a boost so you can figure your way around the code base a little bit faster and reduce some of the time that's usually spent on discovery is the goal of these streams. Is that everything, or have you got anything else you'd like to add, SafetyBot?
No, not. But if anyone has any questions, just feel free to tag me in Discord. I'll get back. There might be some minor things people run into with the tests. I'll just make a note of that in the Discord as well. Essentially, just the way we had, for example, how we can figure when we do the claim and swap. That might just confuse some users there, and yeah, that code probably could have on the actual tests probably should have had better comments. So if anyone gets stuck there, let me know as well. But I'll make a comment in the Discord.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the Discord. We have a channel dedicated to the Alchemix contest, so if you put them in there, SafetyBot will be in there, and a couple of the team will be in there to answer any questions as soon as possible. As always, that is open for questions, so you can tag the sponsors and get an answer there. But I think that is all for this deep dive into the code base. I hope it has helped all of the viewers. Thank you very much, SafetyBot and Scoopy, for coming on today and giving us that explanation. It has been incredibly helpful, and hopefully we'll give those auditors a head start. But that is all we have for today's stream. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all again next time. Goodbye.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye.